Thank you for joining us for the Prep Extra Live Championship Edition. We are talking about the finals coming up this week. This is the vaunted Week 14.
Yeah.
And
in Week 14, we finally got the La Mirada helmet.
Yeah. Right, and we actually maybe had it in Week 13, but I don't know. Anyways, this is actually a stacked year for us. Something that a lot of us saw coming. From the beginning of the year, right. We have way more teams than usual, Freddie. Usually, the three zones that we cover, Tribune, Star News, and Whittier Daily News, we might have 2 teams across them. Yeah. We got much more than that, so we've got a lot to talk about.
Last year we had 0.
We were shut out last year, if you remember. I think we were shut out almost by the semifinals. We were shut out. Even before that. I mean, we were missing a lot of teams.
I was at the luncheon last year. Why were we? Wasn't I?
No, you weren't at the luncheon last year because we didn't have any teams in the finals.
Are you sure?
Yeah, we covered Pomona for. Yeah. Oh, we had Los Altos. That's right.
Thank you. We had Los Altos.
I forgot about that.
Right.
How can I just forget Los Altos?
I knew I was there.
We had to add Pomona to kind of balance it out.
Yeah, I knew I was there.
You're right.
Right, yeah, but so the point, and I think the year before we only had like San Dimas. Yeah. Well, this year we got quite a bit more, and so that's what we got to get right into. Guys, if you don't mind starting, we'll start with the big local Tribune Star News matchup going down at Citrus College. This one's on Saturday night. Mark that down, 7 o'clock kickoff at Citrus College. San Marino 13-0 against Charter Oak 12-1. What a dream matchup for the Valley.
Yeah, I mean, this is the one I kind of predicted from the very beginning. I got to get out and see San Marino earlier this year. I've seen Charter Oak now a couple of times, and I thought these were the best 2 teams in the division. I also thought Glendora was right there. That game was 28-14 last week against Charter Oak. And this is the game, Aram, I've kind of been waiting for, the East versus West. I thought, Coach Mike Hobby at San Marino done such an incredible job building that team. And you got Coach Lou Farrar chasing his 6th championship. I mean, something he's done many times. I mean, it's just a dream matchup for the San Gabriel Valley. It reminds me of the days when we used to have Monrovia and San Dimas going at it in Mid-Valley Division championships. Only this time, for me, the stakes are a little higher because I think this is a bigger boy football. Not to take anything away from those teams, but it's bigger boy football.
Yeah, it does feel bigger.
These are the best public schools in our readership outside Whittier, which is a different story. We'll get to that next.
Yeah, and I think the fact that one's 13-0 and one's 12-1, and the only loss that Charter Oak has is to La Mirada, who's playing in another championship, and we're going to talk about that coming up. I think those records just really kind of, Freddie, I mean, they just speak for themselves. Stevie, your early thoughts on this game? What a dream matchup. Too bad you won't be there.
I mean, it's a dream offensive matchup. I mean, this on the surface looks like it's going to be one of those basketball type of shootout games that fans love, and it's just going to be a great game. I think.
I don't think Aram San Marino has seen anything like this offensively. When you think of, Dom Farrar, the offensive coordinator at Charter Oak, Cam Brown and Eccles, and just the way they run their offense, it's so balanced when you look at the numbers. And, looking over San Marino's schedule, we know they played the easy non-league schedule. We know they had the tough game against Monrovia, who got totally wiped out by Charter Oak. I look at this game and I'm just wondering how they're going to slow down this machine that is Charter Oak offensively. Are they going to be athletic enough? And that's a question that we keep bringing up. I know they have talented football players, but can someone stay with Eccles in the backfield? Can you keep track of the way they run that offense and mix it up? It's probably a little more complicated than San Marino's probably used to dealing with in terms of defending a total offense.
Well, here's the thing. I mean, both teams played last year. This is a rematch, if you will, of last year's second round when Charter Oak, the game that I was at. I would not call it a blowout, but Charter Oak won 49-31. San Marino definitely moved the ball on them. The problem was that Charter Oak got ahead, and it was time to play catch-up for San Marino. And this was a 10-point game with about, I want to say 8, 9, 10 minutes left, and San Marino had the ball just inside Charter Oak territory, and they're down 10, and Coach Hobby on a 4th and 7 decided to punt, which a lot of people, myself included, kind of, really, I guess.
Questioned it?
Yeah, questioned it or was like, oh, man, that might be dangerous, because you just knew that if Charter Oak got the ball back and San Marino didn't hold, then the game's over. And exactly what happened, like a play or two later, Eccles breaks like an 80-yard touchdown run, and that's pretty much, now it's like a 3-score game, and it's difficult. But the thing is that Coach Hobby and that staff learned, obviously, from last year and with that defense, because that defense last year really was not very good. They allowed 22.8 points per game. This year, they're only allowing 10. San Marino's defense is much better than what they were last year, and that's why instead of being a second-place team out of the Rio Hondo League, they're the league champs. Instead of having 3 or 2 losses going into the playoffs, they're undefeated. That's been the difference. The offense is still just as fantastic as it's been. So to answer your question, Fred, this team is certainly capable of getting the stops needed to win a championship. Yeah. That's what makes this game so interesting. Now, here's the big thing coming into this. San Marino wide receiver Aiden Santino, he's kind of their, it's hard to call a guy that's got over 1,000 yards receiving their number 2, but, when you got a J.P. Shofi, that makes Santino number 2. He injured his ankle again. He injured it toward the end, the game you and I were at, the South Pasadena game. He injured it, and he was on crutches after that game, took the next 2 weeks off. He came back for Diamond Ranch, was a little hobbled. He played the whole way, I believe, against Don Lugo and actually had a fantastic game. But he re-injured his ankle again last week against Summit, and he missed basically the whole second half. San Marino was still able to outscore Summit in the second half and get away with the win. But they're going to need Aiden Santino this week, and there's no word at all. I asked the guys when they got to the...
They're not going to tell you now.
Yeah, Carson Glazer, very, very well-trained quarterback. I asked him when they got there, and I was like, Carson, what's up with Aiden, man? Is he going to... Oh, I don't know. So he knows, but, we're not going to know probably until that night. And then Charter Oak, Brian Castile, their stud wide receiver. He was at Monday's luncheon, but he basically... he was there, but he wasn't there last week against Glendora. He was pretty much a decoy, Fred. He warmed up, went back to the locker room, came back out. They put Matt Fink on him on a lot of plays, and he just basically would kind of drive off the ball for 5 yards and then just stop. He was not really there. I think he had 1 reception. So if Castile, he should be a little further along in the sprained ankle process than Santino. Both these teams really need to be at full strength, especially San Marino.
Yeah, well, you had yesterday's luncheon, Aaron, because that's what the keynote speaker was talking about. There's going to be injuries and things like that. You can't focus too much about those. You've got to embrace what you have, what you're taking into the game. Both teams, I think, when you get into week 14, are probably a little banged up. I'm sure there are injuries and bruises that we don't even know about. You suck it up. You put it aside. They're gonna knock helmets on Saturday night, and you're gonna see what happens. This is an exciting neighborhood game for me. I mean, when Charter Oak won their back-to-back titles a few years ago, what was that? 08 and 09, I think it was. They were playing Diamond Ranch, and they were games that it was hard to get excited about because they'd already beaten Diamond Ranch in league, and you kind of knew that they were going to spank them, and they did both games. And Charter Oak had super teams those particular years. This is a great matchup. This is probably like some of those old matchups you had back in the day, whether it was Charter Oak, Los Altos, or South Hills, and whoever. What's the line on CalPreps, Aram? I bet this is like and I haven't even looked. I bet it's inside 3 or 4 points.
No, it's actually not. It's an 11. It's 38-27 for Charter Oak.
See, I didn't think it would be that big. Because I'm thinking this is
that's
really
because of strength of schedule, Fred. That's all that is pretty much because Charter Oak played Glendora in the non-league and they played La Mirada. That's and this Green Valley team from Nevada. When they did that and San Marino played, the Arroyos and the Cal Highs of the world, that's all that is. But I don't put any stock in it, not one bit going into this game.
You talked to Troy Thomas last week when you were talking about the Amat game against Bosco, and one of the things he said, and it didn't apply in that game, But he was saying when there are certain times when players are playing for something more. They're playing for something bigger.
Right.
I got that feeling with San Marino yesterday, interviewing a few of their players, that this is really for them about restoring that tradition, about the community, waking up the community. Something that Charter Oak has been doing for years. Charter Oak is Charter Oak, and even the San Marino players admitted that they have the tradition. They've been here before. They know what it's all about. This is really their first time in a while, or for that community. Even a lot of the parents of the players haven't gone through anything like this. So I got the sense that this is more than just a championship game for them, that they really feel the weight of that city with them. And I wonder how that's going to carry with them into this game.
Well, so far it's been great. Yeah. Those things have really spurred this team on. And we can get right into picking this game right now. I'll tell you this. We talked about this the last couple weeks, and we'll talk about it again today. When you play in one of these games and, you have your whole season of work to look back on, and a team can sit there and say, is this the toughest team we've been on the field against this season? There's no doubt about it. For San Marino, this is their toughest opponent of the season. For Charter Oak, they say, no, we've been on the field with La Mirada, and that's like, that's a juggernaut this year.
That wasn't a very good memory or experience.
No, it wasn't a very good memory. So you start there, and I'm going to tell you, Freddie, this game's very close. It's so close that if Santino is 100%, I probably pick San Marino to win this game.
Yeah.
That's no joke. But the little things kind of add up here for me, and that's this. Charter Oak has the passing game and it has the running game. It's not one or the other for them. They can beat you with an Eccles run, or they can beat you with a Brown pass.
Right.
San Marino, Michael Chan, the running back, has done a very, very good job this year, but he's not Eccles. San Marino's passing game, I think, might be a little bit better, or might just be better than Charter Oak's passing game. But with no running game to really rely on as a home run, the way Charter Oak has it, that kind of adds up in my mind. I'm not saying San Marino's run game is bad. I'm just saying it's not Eccles and Charter Oak. Physically, at the line of scrimmage,
it's a wash, no?
Yeah, it is, just because Charter Oak is somewhat undersized, but that didn't matter last week against Glendora. This is a fantastic, fantastic game. If Santino is 100%, San Marino's in this game, and they have a darn good chance to win the championship. I can't pick them right now with Santino kind of being a question, because you're going to have all your bullets here. This is the best team San Marino's played all year. For Charter Oak, it's probably the second best team they played all year. Certainly a very formidable opponent. But I'm going to pick Charter Oak in a somewhat close game. I'm going to say, around a touchdown.
Yeah, I'm with you, Aram, and I don't think it'll be an 11-point game. I think it'll be a fourth quarter game, and I've got Charter Oak squeezing one out here too. I just hope that it's what we're guessing right now, and that we get a great, great championship game. There's nothing worse last year, I think, for us at that Colonial Southwest game in the first quarter, knowing that game was over.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that was
listen, let me tell you something right now, Freddie.
If one team is going to do that, it would be Charter Oak, but I don't think they will. I don't think San Marino has come this far to get blown out.
Glazer and Shofi are absolutely two of the best players at their position that you will have seen in the 30 years or whatever, how many years you end up doing this. There is absolutely no doubt about that. The record books say that. The stats say that. Fans, when you get out there and see that, you will understand Glazer and Shofi are absolutely special players. So you can forget about them getting blown out. They're not getting blown out in this game. They're too good offensively. They're too smart coaching staff-wise. Charter Oak's coaching staff is very smart too. But so is San Marino's. And each staff is going to find things on each other and exploit it. It's not just going to be Charter Oak exploiting San Marino. It's going to be San Marino exploiting things on Charter Oak as well, which is rare.
Yeah.
And it's going to lead to a good game. And I also want to mention this San Marino team. They are very, very smart upstairs. And so is Charter Oak. You watch Charter Oak, the way they play, they're a very controlled team. They don't make mistakes. They don't have stupid personal foul penalties. There's none of that. So you couldn't ask for two better polished teams to be playing for a championship with two fantastic coaching staffs that really get after it, X's and O's wise. Stevie, what do you think?
I kind of agree with you guys. I think it's going to be an extremely tight game. I think it's going to be a high-scoring game. I'm not sure either defense can slow down these two offenses. But like you, I think Charter Oak's run game, that addition is just they're more of a safe pick in a game like this.
In the games I see Nichols play, he's been spectacular. He's been just spectacular. I think I covered his 6-touchdown game early against West Covina. He was just spectacular.
Yeah, so okay, we are all picking Charter Oak fans. Please get out to this game. San Marino parents, if you have to go out and hire people to go sit in the stands and watch your kids play, 20 of them each, give them $100 each. It's no sweat off your back. Do it, because these San Marino kids deserve a big crowd. They are a fantastic team.
And Citrus College is a big place. And if you don't come to show it, it's going to show.
Yeah, and we are going to take pictures of the stands before the game.
You better bring it on Saturday.
Right, so I'm hoping San Marino fills the place up.
It's a big parking lot. There's no concerns about some of these places have bad parking.
And I think they will.
And there's it seats 10,000, so there's plenty of room for you guys.
And look, at East and West San Gabriel Valley, there's no other football teams playing that night, so I think that it will be a big game at Citrus College. Right. I think you're going to get a lot of people from other teams that are just kind of curious who want to go watch a championship game, and it's a great place to watch a game at.
Right. Okay. Now moving on. Well, boy, this is a big one. Southeast Division. We just talked about I don't want to say Charter Oak and San Marino.
This is like an old South Hills Los Altos game, an old Charter Oak Los Altos game, where they won't readily like to admit it. Yeah. I was asking Machete yesterday. We're talking about La Mirada hosting La Serna in the All Whittier championship game in the Southeast. And I was asking Machete if there's any bad blood, basically, and he kind of played that off like there isn't, when everybody knows that there is a lot of bad blood between these two schools.
I didn't know that you knew that, Fred, but there is.
I was over the weekend, at a soccer tournament with the little ones in San Diego, and there are a lot of parents that have kids that go to La Mirada who are fired up about this game, and there is definitely a lot of bad blood between these two schools when it comes to football, which is why they don't really schedule each other in non-league in the last few years, when it makes so much sense that they should. What a matchup.
Yeah, so like I was saying, whereas you go from like the San Marino Charter Oak, I don't want to call it like the gentlemanly championship game, you are now going to something that is just going to be absolutely fierce. Yeah. And that's La Mirada, like Freddie said, La Mirada 10-3, hosting La Serna 11-2. This is a La Mirada Whittier area battle. Just Stevie, these are two teams that you've covered a lot this year. Yeah. You know what's on the line here. This is just insane.
Yeah, and both teams have really, have been almost dominant in the playoffs. Mm-hmm. La Serna had that tough game last week against St. Francis, and
not in the second half.
They've done that in the second half. They did that against Cal High, where it was a game, and then they just totally dominate the team in the second half. And La Mirada has been just like firing on all cylinders in the playoffs. They have.
There hasn't been a close game.
I think their closest game was 38-7.
Right. Which was last week.
Mojo is finally meeting the talent with them. They're finally coming together.
Oh my God!
They haven't been able.
Well, they're running the ball extremely well. I saw that against Santa Fe. There were just gaping holes for that's how their running back was. I think I had him for over 200 yards that game.
Yeah.
And they've continued that. And the quarterback Tristan Meyer, he makes plays. He's got athletes to throw to. And so they're a tough team to stop.
I'll tell you right now, this La Mirada team, in my eye, just from a surface level, they're top 25 in the Southland. We know they have the big losses this year to St. John Bosco, to Mater Dei, and even one to San Clemente, who's playing for a championship.
Yeah, just think of those teams that they lost to.
Yeah. And then obviously the huge win over Charter Oak, which speaks volumes. Because
what was the San Clemente score?
42-26.
Yeah.
This is a team that, switched to Tristan Meyer at quarterback, the old quarterback, Tavaka. He's now playing receiver, and he's outstanding at receiver. Meyer has just been fantastic as a junior quarterback, and he ate very well at the meeting at the luncheon the other day, Freddie. That's important too. CJ Luago's been running the ball like a madman. Yeah. There's speed and athleticism all over the field.
How small CJ was when I saw him yesterday. I didn't realize he was.
Well, he's not a big dude.
I was looking at him eye to eye.
You didn't see the eye candy that is La Mirada at the luncheon. Machete didn't bring, the guys that you would be like, holy cow. Yeah. Basically the transfers.
I saw CJ in a couple of them.
Basically the transfers didn't come. So, but boy, they will be there on Friday night. And this team, on Saturday night. This team, to me, they're just stacked beyond what a Southeast team would be, this year. This is the kind of team that, next week with a bowl game, if they win this week, could actually win that bowl game and play on again. They are really, really talented. Lacerna, on the other hand, Stevie, they look like typical Lacerna to me. The videos that I've been watching this week and stuff, they look like, which is more than good enough, right? Because, typical Lacerna means you're in the semifinals or finals almost every year. You do what you do well. You got to give Coach Andy George amazing credit. This is a team, Freddie, that lost Margarito Beltran, the guy that, took them to all those championship games. Let's look at this program, Freddie, in context. You and I were there tonight. They lost 84-21 to West Covina. Yeah. They were the laughing stock of the Valley. What do? They come back the next year and they win, right? They go to the finals and lose to Downey.
Yeah, lost to Downey.
But it's a much more respectable game.
Yeah.
The year after that, they win it all.
Yeah.
And then you lose Frankie Palmer and you say, okay, program's done. They're screwed, right? Yeah. What happens? Yeah. They're right back in the semifinals with a new quarterback. Yeah. Then this year, another new quarterback. They're right back in the finals now.
There's something else.
As a number one seed.
You can go back even further to the day that West Covina put like 70 points on them, and the next year they come back and win a championship. I mean, that's
what I did, isn't it?
Oh, I thought I didn't know.
Yeah, talked about the 80.
Yeah, the 84
points in one game.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
The
program is unbelievable.
Yeah.
And it's plug and play now. I mean, these kids... This system, they do, there's no panic last week when they're on the road at St. Francis and they're down 10-3. They scored the next 21 points and win the game.
I did not think they would get by St. Francis.
21-0 in the second half.
They were dominated in the first round. I think I had them for 11 yards rushing, which a Lacerna team that when they're not running the ball, they're in trouble.
You're not going to crack them mentally.
But
that's the thing.
But they came out and said, we know what we have to do. We saw them on film. We know what we have to do. And that's what we went on and did it. I got kind of in trouble with a Lacerna fan saying they play with a chip on their shoulder, but they do that in a good way. They feel the way they have played the way that what the program has done the last 6 years, that winning a championship is theirs, and someone's got to take it away from them.
I don't blame them.
And
this is as good of a consistent of a winner as any of us cover around here.
Both teams probably go into this game feeling like they're the favorite, right?
Yeah, I would say so. I
don't. What's the line on Matt Calpreps?
Oh boy, that's.
I bet it's a La Mirada by 3. I don't even see it. I'm just guessing.
35-27 La Mirada.
Oh, okay, even a little bit more.
Here's the problem, though. Okay, as much as we build up Lacerna here, this is the problem for me when you're actually picking this game. They're not the bigger, they're not the faster team, and when you're not either of those two things, you got a little bit of a problem. Yes, like I said, you're going to have to crack them mentally. You're going to have to break them down. They're never out of a game. They're going to keep coming and coming and coming. But La Mirada is seriously the bigger and faster team. Yeah. This is going to be, I think it's going to be a game that La Mirada somewhat controls. Not a blowout by any stretch, but a game that it's very obvious that La Mirada is the cream of the division. And, I got La Mirada kind of in a 10 to 14 point range. Yeah. Really kind of the whole second half.
It's really not a game where you can, I'm guessing you can focus too much on the X's and O's, because I think they're both going to bring so much more playing each other in a game like this. I mean, it's a rivalry game in the sense that, these are neighboring schools that have great football traditions, that don't schedule each other regularly, that battle for players to attract them to your schools. And they've been waiting for a game like this. I bet when the playoffs started, or even before that, when they looked at the draws, that possibility of a La Mirada Lacerna final, I just think you're going to see guys who are playing over their heads.
Oh,
and the thing about a game like this is you don't know who's going to play over their head, or who's going to play 2 or 3 levels higher than they've ever played before.
Right.
That's what in a game like this you just can't predict. But if you're going to, I agree with Air, if you're going to look at strength of schedule, X's and O's, and the things Air mentioned, you have to probably favor La Mirada. I wouldn't be surprised if it goes either way, just because of the things I mentioned, though.
Yeah, I mean,
I've got La Mirada.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a tight game. Like you said, both offenses can score. Both defenses are very sound. I'm just not going to pick against Lacerna and the way they play. I just think.
And that says a lot, because Stevie sees them a lot more than we do. He's down there.
I've seen La Mirada what they can do. the way they can dominate a team running the ball, and then when they get that dominance, they get that defense kind of sucked in and they forget about the receivers and they run a couple trick plays. They did that against Santa Fe.
Right.
But I just the way this Lucerna team feels and plays, I feel they can pull it out.
Why couldn't these games one be on Friday and one be on Saturday?
God.
Why does Charter Oak, San Marino, and La Mirada, Lucerna have to be on the same night?
Well, because I can tell you.
Can we set this up at Citrus College and make a doubleheader and have one game start at like 4 o'clock?
No, you're right.
It's like I tweeted out a few weeks ago.
Great game.
What a great division it would be if we had Lucerna, La Mirada, Charter Oak, San Marino, La Habra.
Look, the difference, I really do believe the difference between the fan atmosphere at La Mirada, Lucerna, where you're going to be able to cut the tension with a knife, and the fan atmosphere at Citrus College when it's Charter Oak and San Marino is going to be like going to the Rose Parade compared to going to the Rose Bowl. Seriously, it's going to be like that. And the Rose Parade, and I love San Marino. I grew up with San Marino football, and Charter Oak has obviously been, not that I love both
not
programs.
The same animosity, though.
It's just not the same like fierce situation that it's going to be down in La Mirada for that game.
Like we started out, if this was Gano against Farrar, it takes on a whole different meaning, or Bogan against Farrar.
Just to put it in perspective, at the end of the meeting yesterday, you guys saw it. The Charter Oak players went up to the San Marino players, and they're all standing there talking and
photo ops.
Yeah, photo ops, and hey, how are you? You did good. You guys
I
are
didn't
doing
see that
good.
with La Mirada Lucerna.
Yeah, no, it just.
I didn't see CJ walk up and hug those guys over at the
You didn't hug Campos. No, right. You didn't see that, but that's how it is. I mean, this is a smorgasbord, a potpourri of football teams and personalities. Okay, so that covers the beautiful Saturday night. Boy, Freddie, I was actually thinking maybe I could weasel a way to kind of go to one game for a half, then come to the other one for a half.
That's not a very easy drive.
Yeah.
Try getting from Citrus to La Mirada quick. There's just no way to get there. Unless you've got a
chopper.
There's no way on a Saturday night of navigating your way there in under 45 minutes.
Right. Okay, now let's switch to Friday night. Guess who's back in the finals? San Dimas. We talked about Lucerna. Yeah, we talked about Lucerna and the longevity of that program. And, you got to say the same things now about San Dimas.
Coach Zernico leaves. Coleman step right in, and we're back in the ship.
And we're back in the finals. Yeah. What a fantastic run this San Dimas team has been on. I mean, we talked about it last week, Fred. After they beat Paraclete, they were a favorite to beat Viewpoint last week, and they went out and they took care of that business and punched their ticket into the finals. What a run they've been on since that Northview lost. I mean, you look at all the scores here. Even the Paraclete game ends in a double-figure win for them. This team is doing exactly what you want to be doing at the right time of year. But now here comes Sierra Canyon, the team that everyone has earmarked to be playing in a higher division next year, a year after. Can San Dimas do it again? That's the big question here. Can they pull, a Paraclete-style upset? They've got everything set up for it. They're at home. It's going to be cold. This is November football. Yeah. I think Commissioner Wygod is even talking about going to this game, which would be kind of cool to see. Everything's set up for them. Can they do it again, though?
The narrative of San Dimas over the years is they've always got better towards the end of the year. They've always played their best football at the end of the year. But I think this time, you look at all the championships, I thought the very first one they beat, when they beat Bueno and Monrovia, in that it was a big rainstorm. Yeah. Monrovia was favored, I think, like Sierra Canyon is today. Although Sierra Canyon, you look at what they did to Pomona last week and what they've done in the playoffs to teams. You might think this is even a taller task than what San Dimas did beating that Bueno Monrovia team a lot of years back. I think this is the one game, and then the championship games that we're going to cover this week, I think there's 4 of them. We'll get to La Habra and Sacramento next. That this is the potential for the biggest blowout. Or blowout.
Oh, man.
And you hate to say that about a San Dimas team because they've been so good and they've been so gritty and they've played so well at the end of the year. But it may simply just come down to the fact that Sierra Canyon's on another level. And as much as you thought Bishop Amat might give Bosco a game last week, when teams are just on a different level, there's not a lot you can do, even playing your best football. So I'm not even sure San Dimas' ceiling is going to be good enough.
Or Freddie, sometimes you can get one of these run and shoot teams, one of these nice finesse teams loaded with skill players, and drag them down into the mud with you, which is what San Dimas does, and all of a sudden change this thing from a shootout, from a high tempo to something very low and slow, like a nice smoked rack of ribs, and get them into like a dirty situation where all of a sudden San Dimas is controlling the clock with 6-minute drives that are averaging 4 yards a play, and there's not that room or time for those explosive plays, and the next thing you know, you look up and it's a close game in the second half.
How about throwing him a big curve, Steve, and saying, you know what, let's just throw the wing tee at him. We've done it all those previous years. Yeah. It's a hard thing to defend when you've never practiced for it. Let's just throw that out in the championship game and see if we can make these drives long.
The other day, where and I hate to go back to like a pro game, but when Peyton Manning was rolling at Indianapolis and teams had trouble slowing them down, Jack Del Rio at Jacksonville said, okay, we're just going to let you score, but you're going to take your time. He ran a prevent defense.
Right. Yeah.
He let them score, and then they ran the ball and controlled the ball, and then they wound up winning a close game by, just getting that game in the fourth quarter.
You know why is because, and we're just speaking of the very best possible cases here for San Dimas, is you never know when a Sierra Canyon gets in a close game how they'll react. We've seen those teams in high school that are blowing out everyone, and the one time they get in a close game, things start to tighten up and they screw up, and they make an error.
What was the comparative score with Paraclete?
Well, you can do two comparative scores. You can do the one with Viewpoint. You can do the one with Paraclete. Okay,
give me those.
43-28, San Dimas beat Paraclete, and then when Sierra Canyon played them, it was 48-34. So somewhat comparable. Yeah. But when you talk about
San
Viewpoint,
Dimas had to go to Paraclete to do that.
Right. And when you talk about Viewpoint, though, Sierra Canyon beat them 59-13. San Dimas beat Viewpoint 56-30.
But it was a game. It was a game. San Dimas rolled out to a big lead, though. Too.
Right.
I mean, they scored a lot of those points late. So again, it's
this
comparable.
This is not the monumental blowout.
Maybe you're right, and it's at home.
It's at home.
It's at home, which is a huge advantage for San Dimas.
Right. If ever you were going to be set up for one of these things, it's this. And like I said, San Dimas can play that style where they drag you down into the mud, they slow you down, and if they get their game flow, if they get things going the way they want it to go, they're a very dangerous, tough team. Yeah. Max Preps picks at 42-28.
Cal Preps.
Cal Preps for Sierra Canyon, 42-28.
2 touchdowns.
I gotta tell you, Freddie, I'm picking San Dimas in this game.
You're not either.
Yeah, I am.
You're not either.
I am. Yeah, I am. It's for the reasons that I said. Yes, I realize everything has to go perfect. Yeah. I realize that.
Yeah. This is a heart pick. It's not a mind pick. It's a heart pick.
I won't be standing on the Sierra Canyon sideline, so I can tell you that much.
If you were a betting man, you'd bet this like a pick'em game.
If I got the 14-point spread.
No, I'm not talking about the spread.
Well, a betting man gets a spread, Fred.
We're not betting
a betting man doesn't do pick'em.
If I'm making you a straight bet with no points,
well, then you're giving me odds. You're giving me 4-1 odds.
But when you're saying San Dimas is going to win, you're not betting. You're not saying give me the 14 points and they're going to cover.
I'm not putting my money up. I'm not putting my money up.
I'm just saying.
If you ask me to put my money up, then I'm going to want a spread or I'm going to want a money line.
I think we know where we
Yeah, so, but I'm picking San Dimas in this game. I think this figures to be a lot closer than what it is. This is a red-hot football team in San Dimas. They're playing good defense, too. Yeah. They can get this flow, I think. I think they can get the game to flow the way they want it to, and before you know it, Sierra Canyon looks up, and it's in a close game. Now, if Sierra Canyon jumps all over them, and it's 21-0, or they're down 14 points, and San Dimas has to get out of its comfort zone offensively, then things can snowball. But that hasn't happened for San Dimas since probably the first half of the Northview game. Yeah. That hasn't happened for them. So if they can control that from happening, they're going to get this into a game that's going to be a lot closer than people think. Yeah. So I got San Dimas.
Yeah, I'd like to pick San Dimas. I just can't. I just think Sierra Canyon is a better team.
Styles make fights, Stevie.
Yeah, I know.
Styles make fights.
Maybe if I was covering the game, I'd probably pick San Dimas since I've never seen them lose since Coach Zernico got there.
Maybe they need you. And you won't be out there Friday night. Yeah, no, I've got Sierra Canyon. Yeah. And I think that point spread that we looked at that you mentioned is pretty accurate. probably a 10 to 14 point game. But it wouldn't shock me if San Dimas won. Just looking at some of the comparative scores and the fact that it's at home, and San Dimas, like I said at the beginning of the play, before they even beat Paraclete, they're that one team who's so capable of surprising you, of doing something you don't think they can do. They've done it over the years, and it won't be shocking if they do it again. But unlike Aram, I'm not gonna, I'm gonna give you my straight thoughts on this, and I think Sierra Canyon's going to beat them. I'm not going to tell you. We all want San Dimas to win that game. I just don't think.
Just remember that guys like Josiah Erickson, who they brought down there.
Guy looks like Brian Boswell.
Yeah,
I can't believe that.
He's a mean-looking dude. The linebacker in San Dimas.
I couldn't even get the guy to smile.
He was serious when I interviewed him too.
Serious high school football player I think I've met in a long time.
Right, and he's a heck of a defensive player. I mean, really stud linebacker, Freddie.
And he's been doing it for 3 years.
I was going to say, he's been doing, like Stevie said, he's been doing it he's been in big games. And there have been other guys on this roster that have been in championship games. They don't sweat this situation, San Dimas. That's why they went to Paraclete, and they weren't scared. And Mark Holman, the head coach, said, my team wants to play Sierra Canyon. They wanted to play Paraclete. They don't want the easy way out. They want to play these teams, and they want to see what happens. San Dimas, in no way, shape, or form, especially at home, will be intimidated. They're just not going to be.
Josiah Erickson's not. I mean, that dude had the eye of the tiger yesterday.
Yeah, he did. And you knew that.
I'm not having a Rocky fight. I mean, if you're going to stare down eye to eye, that's the guy you want when you're doing the coin toss, shaking your hand, looking at you across the field. I mean, he was just intimidating.
Yeah.
I wanted to get out of that interview quick. I thought he was going to grab my microphone or throw it down and say it's done. Because he zeroed in on the game.
Yes,
he is. Tell that this guy's all about business this week.
It was funny. I was sitting at the La Mirada table when they announced the San Dimas table, which was a table away from us, and they announced him. Machete looked at me and was like, oh, man, who's that kid?
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, that's their stud linebacker. Yeah. He's like, oh, man.
What do they call those haircuts?
He looks like a serious player.
The mullets? Or
like that guy, Clay Matthews.
Awesome football hair. Awesome football hair.
I will say this. I covered Monrovia, Sierra Canyon a few years ago when Sierra Canyon was they were highly rated, but they were just, it was like a new experience for them. And basically, Monrovia kind of punched them in the mouth, really. I mean, they got physical with them and they kind of caved.
Yeah.
And Monrovia won that game.
Great game. I'm glad this game is at San Dimas, too.
Yeah, me too.
It'd
be fun to be out there.
I think it's going to be a great game.
Okay, so
Friday night at San Dimas High School.
Freddie and Stevie have Sierra Canyon. I got San Dimas in the monumental upset. Fans, we don't have to tell you, get out to that game. That's the Mid-Valley Division Championship. That's at San Dimas High School on Friday, 7 or 7:30?
7 o'clock.
All right, good. Just plan for 7 o'clock for all these games. If you're there a half hour early, who cares? Soak it all in. Say goodbye to the kids. Okay, so now let's move on to the last one. And this one was the championship that everyone saw coming from miles away, literally as in June and May.
Oh, I talked to Coach Mazzata yesterday.
Should I introduce it first?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay, okay. San Clemente, the defending Southwest Division champions, visiting La Habra. I understand this game's been moved to Cerritos College at 7 o'clock on Friday night. La Habra, La Habra is not 11.
And correct me
La Habra is 12-1. San Clemente 11-2.
And correct me if I'm wrong. If playoff divisions, if those things were in play this year, would these two teams have been in the Pac-5 division, replacing those more league teams?
No. But going into next year,
I don't think.
Because it would have been.
If it applied this year, I'm saying.
No, because it would have been based on what they did last year.
Yeah.
So if you want to use this year's data to what they will do, they'll be using this year's data next August to set the divisions.
They could.
I don't think La Habra or San Clemente go all the way up to Pac-5, but it's a possibility.
Yeah,
possibility.
Part of the shame of what I saw.
They would look at this year and last year La Habra lost in the first round.
I mean, the guarantee, Freddie, is like Mission Viejo, who beat La Habra. They're going to be in the Pac-5. Vista Murrieta, who is in the championship game again in Mission Viejo's division, they're going to be in the Pac-5.
Yeah.
It's not. I don't think it's going to reach all the way down to La Habra, but these might be Division 2.
Yeah.
This might be Division 3, which is they're certainly capable of handling it. I mean, these guys gave Mission Viejo a good run. That would be La Habra, 12-1. That's their only loss of the year is to Mission Viejo.
And that was a game they could have won.
Yeah, Stevie was at that game. They made mistakes, but they played great defense. I think I'm not sure if this still stands, but I think they held Mission Viejo to its lowest point total of the season, the 24 points. So La Habra can play defense. I mean, that's the difference between them this year and last year. And they've just run right through the playoffs. And here we are.
They've had 4 shutouts this year.
Yeah.
And they've held teams to single digits 7 times.
Yeah.
And that game I covered a couple of weeks ago where they played Laguna Hills, they beat them 42-14.
Yep.
Laguna Hills actually moved the ball on them, but Laguna Hills had three drives inside the 10 where they didn't get any points.
Yeah.
So,
but now here comes San Clemente, and San Clemente is a team that beat La Mirada this year and beat them 42-26. Yeah. San Clemente is the team that won the division last year. San Clemente is a team that's rolled through the playoffs. They played La Habra's league mate, Buena Park, last week, beat them 63-34. When La Habra played Buena Park, it was 48-14. So do the math, folks. This is a very good game.
Yeah.
San Clemente is a no-joke program. We become Twitter friends with them. Jaime Ortiz, they have outstanding program. And La Habra, what can you say about Mazzotta? I mean, he's just one of the best.
That Whittier area, Steve. I mean,
man.
We talked about La Mirada and La Serna, how good that they are, and La Habra's even better. I mean, it's amazing.
And then like Machete said yesterday, Bosco's within 8 miles.
Yeah, so I've just figured it out. I've just figured out why St. Paul isn't good anymore.
That's a great point.
Because if you're a football player, why leave great school districts and programs like La Mirada, La Serna, and La Habra, Bosco over there, Long Beach Poly? Who's going to go to pay money to go to St. Paul when you got these super public schools with great education?
Let me tell you.
Free in the football program. That's why.
Donald Bernard, who you know from around the way, remember him in San Gabriel days, and he's been to other places. Donald Bernard is now on the St. Paul staff, and I was rapping with him at the Charter Oakland-Dora game last week because he was over at Citrus watching
those guys away from these guys.
And I told him, I said, dude, how are you going to win when La Habra's rolling, La Serna's rolling, La Mirada's rolling? Those are the kids you need to get
and you got
to
Bosco,
your place.
Like
and Servite's nearby, too, as well. They'll take some kids. And he's like, you're right, man. We got to start getting those kids back to St. Paul, and that's tough. That's hard. That's hard, man.
Like in the late.
It's hard when there's great school districts around them.
It's kind of like in the late '90s and early 2000s here, when Los Altos, Charter Oak, Diamond Bar, Wilson had
getting out this play, and Bishop Amant was something.
Yes, you're right.
It's
you're right.
Complete flip-flop.
They either went there or they went to Amant. Or a lot of those kids went to Amant for a year and got a story from Los Altos about you're going to be great here and average there.
And over there, when you think of La Mirada or La Serna, these are great school districts, great schools. I mean,
But back to this game, I checked some of the stats and both quarterbacks are throwing for about 2,700 yards.
Yeah.
They each have 37 touchdowns. Mm-hmm. They both, C.J. Taylor for La Habra is having a great year. Their running back at San Clemente is having a great year. So this is going to be an extremely tight game.
It can't be a shootout, though.
No.
I mean, because La Habra's defense is playing, the way they're. But I mean, can it be a shootout? I mean, do you think it's going to be?
It's hard to say because they play different schedules. I kind of trust La Habra's defense. And I was talking to Coach Mazzotta yesterday, and he said this is a game they've been thinking about since they were in the weight room in January.
Right.
They thought their defense was going to be better this year.
Oh, yeah.
And it has. And like I said, teams Laguna Hills seemed to move the ball against them, but when they had to come out with the stop, they came up with the stop. Yeah, they were able to do that. And
I'd kind of jokingly said when the playoffs started that just forget all this other madness. Just let La Habra and San Clemente play this game because it looked inevitable.
That's where you're at.
And it's here. And what's the line on this game? how close is this?
38-24 La Habra.
Yeah, and I like La Habra for
I don't
all
know
the
how you
reasons
can't.
that Steve explained, and they've got the greatest tradition really rolling right now that of all of the law schools in Whittier.
This is their 8th trip to the
But
finals.
you say that.
They're the closest thing to Bishop Amat, I think, in our cover.
At least for this year, but you say that, but the last couple years, La Mirada's played them and waxed them.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's why La Mirada, I think, dropped the game even because they said it wasn't competitive.
You think La Mirada would beat La Habra if they played in the state
man, let
game?
that happen.
Could they play in a state playoff game
I think they could, yeah.
Possible. That's another thing for everyone out there to understand is that every one of these 4 championship games are all of divisions.
Yes.
The winners are going to be in a state playoff the next week.
Right.
All of them. We're going to be back here next week talking about we know we're going to get a La Mirada Lucerna winner.
Yes.
We know we're going to get a Charter Oak San Marino winner. We're going to have at least 2 games to talk about next week, probably 3 with La Habra. And if Aaron's right, we could have 4 teams in state playoffs next week, which would be just the most incredible thing we've ever done.
And it's good you mentioned that because La Habra's quarterback, I don't know if you saw it this week, Eric Barrier, the stud QB, he tweeted, it's really hard for me to realize, man, that win or lose, this is the last, my last high school football game. And I was like, dude, where are you going, man? If you win, you're in the bowls next week. Are you gonna sit it out? Yeah. And I don't think he kind of, and a lot of the kids, the coaches, a lot of people don't realize
done here. Not just next week, folks. There could be a game the week after, and you'd like to think our Southern Section champions, whoever they wind up playing that divisional, is probably going to be favored, whether it's a San Diego or Central Division team, because we play better football here.
We do. We play the best football in the state.
Well, the thing is, a lot of people kind of think it's going to be like basketball. It's not.
No.
But basically, in some sense, they're going to go deep on state rankings on these things.
Well, second-place teams and semifinalists don't get in.
No,
These are just champions.
But on based on how the rankings are, is where they're going to set up the matches. Basically, they choose the open division, which is which is already basically set
decided.
Up. It's De La Salle versus the Bosco Centennial winner.
Right. Exactly.
But from then on, they just kind of go down the list, and this is who you're going to play.
Yeah.
But if teams have played before, then they're going to mix it up a little bit.
And we'll be able to get into all that next week because this is something we're still learning. I mean, there's going to be a lot of divisional state championship games, regional games. We don't know if there's going to be home games. From my understanding, half of the divisional championships are going to be up north, and half of them are going to be down here. They're asking all of these teams in finals to apply for your home site now, apply for a state championship. In case you get it, you'll have a venue to play in it. Who knows what's going to happen? This is a new territory for all of us.
I think on the neutral site, there's both open division games, which is the small open division and the regular open division, and then 3 other divisions.
It is important that Freddie brought this up because, like I said, I think a lot of players like Eric Barrier and a lot of kids out there don't realize if they win, you're playing next week. And same with coaches and fans and parents. Don't be going anywhere. Don't go to grandma's house for Christmas early because you're playing. And who you're playing, we'll find out, I think, on Sunday. But that's something that's you've got to keep that in mind.
The Sunday pairings are coming out, so follow. It's a big pairings day.
Are we all picking Habra to win this game?
La Habra.
Is it easy?
No,
I don't think so either.
No, I mean
pedigree, man. San Clemente's got pedigree.
Based on what I saw, like you said, on their schedule and the stats.
Yes.
I mean, this is a very good offensive team.
It's going to be a good game.
It's going to be. I think it's. I would say it's going to be at least the second best team that La Mirada has played this year.
What a time to be
La Habra has played.
Ramirez, what a time to be the high school reporter in the Whittier area.
This, in my opinion, is the best game of the weekend as far as fans. I think this is going to be a one-score game, back and forth. Whoever has the ball last wins this game, this La Habra San Clemente game. And I'm going to go with La Habra. And I think it's going to be something like a 32-28 type game. Not quite a shootout, but just a lot of fun. Anyways, get out there. This has been moved to Cerritos College now to accommodate the fans. 7 o'clock on Friday night. Should just be a great atmosphere. We'll see if Coach Frank Mazzota can add to his pile of rings.
He's going for number 7.
Yeah,
time with the Spain and the SGV leadership.
Mazzota, man. I mean, just what a factory. I mean, they had a couple down years and they're right back. And what can you say about La Habra? Anyways, get out to the games, fans. It doesn't matter which one.
Yeah.
Please get out and support these teams. If you played for another school, if your kid went to another school and you're out, go to one of these games that's closest to you and go check it out. It's a lot of fun, and hopefully, well, we know we're going to be crowning some champions, but we just don't know.
We're
who.
back here talking football next week.
Right.
Yeah. Now I know why South Hills is taking La Habra off their schedule.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Well, those games have been blowouts, Freddie.